Hey. Why are you still up? You look like you're about ready to drop. Okay, I get that, but you need to rest if you want to get better. Come on. I'll sit with you until you fall asleep. Yeah. I'm filling out some paperwork so one of our newbies can go to the academy. It's a risk assessment thing. Lucky for her, little Miss Sunshine seems to be doing just fine. I mean, yes, she is turning into a bit of a juvenile delinquent, stealing keys and my car, but that's young vampires for you. I was way worse when I was her age. Yes, I sound old. I am old. Not by vampire standards, but for humans, yep, pretty old. Oh, don't look at me like that. I know that I'm technically a boomer, but you wouldn't know just by looking at me. I go with the times. Sure, I can sit on the bed if that's comfortable for you. I know you enjoy sprawling out, little starfish. Yeah, I know. Okay, well, what do you want me to talk about? Anything. Oh, okay, that's not a broad subject at all. Me? That really isn't a broad subject. There isn't much to say. Hey, what you see is what you get. My past isn't really bedtime story material. Okay. Oh, okay. We're playing the victim card now. That is cold. I mean, it's fine and it works, but cold. While we're at that topic, stop hogging the blankets. I have enough of them, so we can both turn into blanket burritos, thank you very much. I always thought humans are better at sharing, you know? I'm not stalling. You're stalling by talking when you should be attempting to sleep. Well, your eyes are open, so... Yes, Jesus Christ. I'm doing it. I'm telling the story. Let me collect myself, okay? I've never done this before. Just tell someone about me. It's kind of personal. Where do I start? Well, I was born on November 17th, 1950. Yes, that is where I'm starting the story. Do you want to hear it or not? Good. So, November 1950. My parents were very boring, normal humans. They were young and very in love. I was their second child, and I would end up being number 2 out of 3. Yes, the middle child. Don't comment on that. Hey, I was not like other middle children, okay? I was special. Or especially annoying, as my brothers would say. Growing up with two boys, I was always trying to establish myself as tough, you know? I didn't want to be the little girl my older brother picked on. And I didn't want my little brother to see me as boring, so when it came to my childhood, I was what most people back then called a firecracker. And not just because I once lit a barn on fire. That's another story. My parents were fine with that, for the most part. I mean, they didn't have much of a choice. I don't respond well to being chastised, and I had a talent for turning any punishments into fun little games for me. It was really different back then, growing up. No matter how much trouble I'd get in, at the end of the day, I was a good kid. My parents, they loved me as much as any parent could. I think at some point they gave up trying to turn me into a saintly little girl and just surrendered to my spirit. They never tried to make me wear dresses, and my mom even let me cut my hair short, thank God. Probably so I wouldn't light that on fire too. I was also surprisingly accomplished in school. I had good grades, my teachers liked me. I don't know how that happened. But I was smart, quick to adapt, and I ended up skipping a year ahead, making me just 13 when I started my freshman year in high school. It was a totally different world for me. Suddenly, all the people around me were my older brother's age, and they all seemed so cool, grown up. Anyway, that is how I met Dottie. Dottie loved Elvis and the Beatles, and there was nothing she wanted more than to date a boy who had a car of his own. She was the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Her father was some sort of senator. Well, he thought he was very important. And their family had money, which they spent mostly on Dottie. She got everything she wanted immediately, exactly how she wanted it. But I adored her, and for some reason, she adored me. Sometimes she would tell people that I was her little sister, or her twin, or she would call me her little doll. Dottie made it her business to make me a girl just like her. Because of her, I grew out my hair, and Dottie put curlers in it. She would put makeup on me, and she would give me the clothes she wouldn't want to wear anymore. My parents were in seventh heaven, and so was I. Being Dottie's friend, people were fawning over me a lot. Boys, girls, it didn't matter. I was basking in the glow of being Dottie's friend and being absolutely fabulous, as she liked to say. I was just some middle-class girl, plucked out of obscurity by this incredibly mature 16-year-old. Honestly, I think nowadays Dottie would be some sort of influencer trying to sell people hair growth gummies. But back then, she just held court. First dating this boy, then that boy, being resented by all the other girls for how pretty she was, but only ever in secret. I guess people liked me because I was just a moon-eyed little girl, following her around, agreeing to everything everyone ever said. I had turned into a people-pleaser without even realizing it. Anyway, summer 1965, Dottie's family had this beautiful summer home at Cape Cod, and she invited me to join her for a few weeks. She planned for us to bake in the sun all day and be absolutely fabulous. I begged my parents for weeks, pestered them to let me go. I think I just wore them down eventually, bless their hearts. They could never really say no to me. I was their only daughter, after all, and I had earned quite a bit of freedom with my good grades. I left with Dottie's family that summer, feeling like $1,000,000. I had picked only my prettiest dresses and had packed not one, not two, but 3 bathing suits. Look at me go. What my parents didn't know was that Dottie's parents promptly left us alone for a good 99% of the time we were there. Honestly, my parents would have lost their minds if they had known. Their minds and a good amount of sleep. But of course, they had no clue. I felt very grown up, basically living with my best friend all on our own in a beautiful beach house. It was on our 3rd day that we met a couple of boys called Brent and Kyle. Brent had a Ford Mustang and a leather jacket, and Kyle was friends with Brent. I think in Dottie's mind it was clear that Brent would like her best, and I would have to make do with Kyle. Unfortunately for both of us, Brent took a liking to me, though. Honestly, I thought I was the luckiest girl alive. At 15, I was still skinny and had no curves to speak of, unlike Dottie. I was incredibly flattered when Brent expressed his interest in me, but I knew Dottie had her eye on him, so I was very hesitant. The boys and we were joined at the hip that summer. Wherever they went, we went. Since there was no one around to enforce any rules, we would leave the house at night, being picked up by the boys, and we would go into town, sneak into movie theaters, hang out at the beach, and drink beer or whatever liquor we had taken from the house bar that night. It was a great summer. For a while. 3 weeks in, I thought myself madly in love with Brent. Today I know that it was because of his car, but back then, well, yes, I love cars. Haven't you noticed yet? Anyway, summer was almost over, and things had gotten a little out of hand. Dottie and I spent most of our days sleeping off our hangover, only to start drinking with the boys before the sun set. And Dottie was always very adamant that we keep up with them, sip for sip, bottle for bottle. And after a few weeks of that, I was struggling. Brent noticed and offered me something to take the edge off. Just some pills, tiny things. No big deal. And how could I say no? Dottie agreed for both of us, and with 3 pairs of eyes on me, I swallowed the pills without any protest. They did make me feel better. At least until they made me feel nothing. When I finally came to, Brent was above me, doing what he probably had been planning to do with me the moment he'd laid eyes on me. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't even speak. And that is when it happened. Something inside me broke free. And I had my first vision. The wave of energy was so strong, it pushed Brent off of me. I don't think he realized what had happened. I was just lying there, writhing in the sand, my mind flooding with horrifying pictures, and he just left me there. Every seer's first vision is the same. We all see our own death. I don't know why. It seems really cruel, if you ask me. Especially considering that usually seers develop their powers really early on. I was latent, though. It took the events of that night to bring my magic to the surface. Maybe, if I'd never gone to that house, my powers would have remained dormant forever. But we'll never know. After that night, I had a lot to deal with, and it showed. I distanced myself from Dottie because I couldn't speak to her about what had happened. My parents noticed the change in me, noticed that I kept some kind of secret. I couldn't tell them. I was scared. Scared that they wouldn't believe me about Brent. Scared that they wouldn't believe me about the visions. My grades began to slip, and during all of that, the visions were hitting me left and right. There is a difference between having power and having control. My visions were powerful, but I had no idea how to tame them. Most seers from human backgrounds don't. I finished high school, and the girl that left that school was nothing like the girl that had joined it. I was sullen, quiet, spent most of my time in dark rooms because my head was pounding from enduring one vision after the other. My older brother got drafted, and he died shortly after. My younger brother married his high school sweetheart and also got drafted. He died when she was pregnant with their second child. And that left only me. And I was adrift. There was no space for me in the human world anymore. But I had no connections in the magical world either. Since I had no control over my powers, I couldn't even utilize them to make some money. And then Will found me. They say power attracts power, but to be honest, I don't know why he was interested in me at all. I was an uncontrollable mess, and he was a powerful, influential vampire even then. He took me under his wing. He got me out of the city, brought me to the countryside, where there are less people, and therefore less triggers for visions. Still, I knew what was coming. A lot of seers die because of their visions. A weak one, catching you in just the right moment, surprising you while you're busy doing something dangerous, like driving or something that can kill you. The stronger visions can quite literally blow the top of your skull off, which is a whole mess for the department to clean up. No, seriously. Not only do they have to scrub the brains of anyone who saw, but they also have to scrub literal brain matter off of walls. That is so gross. I have no adequate words for it. Except you. Anyway, I knew that I would be killed by a vision sooner rather than later, and I was scared shitless, to be honest. I didn't want to die, especially not like that. I felt like I still had so much to do. Will was only just beginning to show me this new world full of actual magic. He could tell something was wrong the closer we came to the date of my death. I was erratic, trying to find a way to stop the visions somehow. Protective spells, wards. Nothing worked for long. With every new vision, I would be in more pain, and eventually my nose would start bleeding whenever a vision hit, which is how Will realized what was wrong, and he confronted me. I told him about what I knew would happen soon, and he made me an offer he'd never made before. He turned me 3 days before I turned 20. He was very gentle about it, which is not something you will hear a lot when you talk about vampire transformations. It was the only time anyone had ever fed from me. Will had never touched me before, and he never touched me after. The transformation itself was quick. There was already so much magic in my blood, it just needed to shift. I mean, sure, it was uncomfortable, as dying should be, but when I woke up, I felt alive for the first time in years. The pain, and the fear, and the exhaustion, it was gone, and all I felt was the power of Will's blood in my veins. The night is very bright when you're a vampire. It's not like you're living in perpetual night. On the contrary, the colors are so much clearer, the world sharper than it was when I'd been human. And of course, my visions vanished after I was turned. Not that I minded. We departed a few weeks later, Will and I, to travel the country so I could learn the ways of our kind. I was a bit hard to handle, I think. Will had to reprimand me a few times. A lot of times, actually. But just like when I'd been a kid, I managed to turn any punishment into a little game for my own amusement. So, I guess this bedtime story does have a happy ending after all. The princess is saved, yada yada. But you're still awake. What? I don't know. You're looking at me weird. I feel like that look is bad news. Oh, really? Now you're willing to relent a blanket to me? Why do I feel like that's a pity move? I'll take it. Thank you. Where's the rest of... What? How was that not the whole story? I feel like I already gave you the extended edition. And now you want more? You're insatiable. No. Scoot over. I am taking a nap now, and since you refuse to sleep, I get to have the big pillow. Because you don't need it. No, you can't use me as a pillow. That would be a reward, not a punishment. Oh, haha. Oh, we got something in common. I'm gonna whoop your ass.